Explain like I'm 3!
Hello children, this is Adolf Hitler. Looks angry, doesn't he? Well, he often was, but not all the time. He was angry at a lot of people. The French, Democrats, Communists, homosexuals, the handicapped, gypsies, and oh boy was he angry at the Jews. But what was it that made him so angry? Imagine you and all your friends are building a tree fort. You draw a little blueprint, collect all the needed wood, assemble the necessary tools, and when you finally go to the nail store David's dad owns, you find out that the nail prices have gone through the roof, because David told his father that his nails will be a much desired item in the near future. Or you're in the midst of the biggest football game all year against the rival school. You're in the last quarter and about to win the whole goddamn thing, when all of a sudden David takes the ball and goes home, making your team forfeit the game automatically. The Jews made Hitler's treehouse fall apart, because the overpriced nails his country spent its whole allowance on were cheaply produced, and he lost to the rival team he fought for 4 years, because the Jews took his country's fighting spirit and went home. Except, they didn't do any of that. Nail prices went up in every store, because of a global nail shortage. The treehouse collapsed because its blueprint looked like it was drawn up by, well, a bunch of 3-year-olds. And the rival team just substituted in Tom Brady as their quarterback, while Hitler's whole team all suffered broken kneecaps and torn ligaments in the third quarter. Young Hitler had not been the most successful in life. He grew up in Austria, where his father beat the Jesus out of him, or into him, whatever sounds worse. He hated his dad for this, but he loved his mother. So lucky for him, his dad died. But sadly for him, his mom died too. Ironically, the doctor who treated her was Jewish and took such good care of her that later, after Hitler took over his home country in Austria, he forbade anyone to harass the doc and even made him an offer to become an honorary Aryan. But he honorably declined. He considered himself an artist, but the heads of the Vienna Academy of Fine Arts disagreed with this assessment. People say he wasn't a good painter, but they do look pretty good to me. Reminds me of Bob Ross. Anyway, his career as an artist didn't really take off, but his career as a homeless man was thriving. And then came war, and a lot of people were happy about that. It was about time that some things were set straight, and it would be over soon anyway. The boys would be home at Christmas. Then came Christmas and the war wasn't over. Far from it, and a whole lot less people were happy about this whole killing each other thing. And then came the next Christmas, still war, and the one after that. Hello war, my old friend. Soon there weren't really that many happy people left, except Adolf Hitler. He was having the time of his life. He found a purpose in life and a camaraderie he has never experienced before. And best of all, he was fighting on the right side. The glorious Germany, in his opinion, the bestest country which has ever country. And they were winning. They just knocked Russia out of the war, and the papers reported nothing but the imminent victory that was at hand. This victory Hitler unfortunately could not celebrate directly at the front, because first of all, just before the end he walked into some poison gas, was temporarily blind and had to recover in a hospital. And second of all, that victory never came. He learned about that fact while recovering in said hospital behind the front. How could that have happened? Well, Germany was being blockaded by England since the war started 4 years earlier, blocking many important resources from entering the country, making it harder and harder for the military to keep up with the war's demands, and for the population not to starve to death. Also, the US of America joined the war on the other side a year prior, and US soldiers were finally setting foot onto Europe's mainland in the millions. And the last great offensive Germany could muster a few months earlier, the one to end them all, got stuck like all the other ones before. But all that Hitler heard, and probably all he wanted to hear, was that the home front collapsed. The army and its soldiers were stabbed in the back by those filthy Democrats, and behind it all, the Jews, robbing Germany of its certain victory. What he heard was that this is what they do. They build nothing, they invent nothing, they discover nothing. They infiltrate other cultures, leeching, undermining, scheming how to exploit everyone else for their own benefit. It's in their DNA. He heard about the Jews even before the war. Anti-Semitism is nothing new, but now he read up on that a lot. He became obsessed with race. He learned about the Aryans, that the Germans are Aryans, and they are the bee's knees. After all, they can trace their spotless lineage way back to Atlantis. That's not a cult, that is hard science. He found out that everything is about race. Not monarchs, not countries, but race. The human civilization is a constant struggle between races, where in the end only the best one will stand alone and tall ruling this earth, flourishing in peace and harmony and enslavement of the lesser races. That is a pretty extreme worldview, but oh boy did Hitler fully believe in it. Not every anti-Semite is a National Socialist, but every socialist is an anti-Semite. It was them versus the Aryans. Fair game. That is also why the socialism part of National Socialism doesn't mean much in the sense of how the word was used back then and now. It's not a struggle between workers and the ruling class with the goal to abolish all property so everyone is equal. It's about the fight between the races, where everyone finds fulfillment and solidarity within its own people. It does not matter if you are the factory owner or just a worker. You are both Aryans and work together for the glory of your race. That is the National Socialist definition of overcoming class barriers. And that does sound appealing. It's a tad bit romantic even, as long as you are on the inside. And Hitler tried to get people inside of this Aryan master house, after other measures failed. He wanted to rule. He wanted to make his Aryan utopia a reality. He wanted to cast aside this yoke of freedom of speech, freedom of expression, democracy and elections, by getting elected. And he succeeded, and evil was let loose on this world. In the end, 85 million people perished, shot in the head as combatants at the front or as civilians right behind it, crammed into chambers and suffocated by poisonous gas, starved to death, euthanized, blown up into pieces. Some do evil things for their own gratification, serial killers for example. They commit heinous acts precisely because they get excitement out of doing exactly what they know is wrong. Some people not only don't care about the suffering they inflict upon others, they welcome it. If you are not a moral absolutist, evil is a pretty hard to grasp concept. But it's no stretch of the imagination to consider those people as close to being evil as a human can get. So how evil was Hitler the person? He was a vegetarian, he loved animals and adored children. Not a single one of his close employees had a single bad word to say about him. Apparently, he was a pretty great boss. He loved movies and had a film playing almost every night when he was at his vacation resort, the Berghof. Up until the war started, that is, because during, he didn't want to partake in leisure activities while the soldiers were suffering at the front. None of that screams evil to me. Now it needs to be said that to be capable of being the leader of a movement, carrying out genocide, no matter the justifications in one's brain, you have to be hella ruthless. And he not only knew everything that was going on, he guided it, he ordered it, he made sure it was carried out by his willing helpers. And here comes the point. Everybody has their reasons, and people can justify the most horrific things for themselves. If they are not the serial killer type, and luckily there aren't that many of them, they don't see themselves as a bad guy in their own story. But people are afraid to humanize people like Hitler. They fear that to view anything he does, anything he is, as something other than demonic will give his actions some justification. We learn the lesson of what the consequences of his ideology will look like, but we don't learn the lesson of how evil ideas can take root within normal people, kind people even. They get demonized, they get ostracized. You try to silence them, but they only go silent in public. Banished to a place where they are among themselves. To a place where their ideas don't get challenged but reinforced. And they'll try to get more and more people inside of there. When was the last time someone made you change your mind? Was it by calling you stupid? By calling you a bad person? All that does is making people defensive. It just makes people think more about why they were right to begin with and you were wrong and stupid. Treat someone as a human being who has reasons and justifications for why they do what they do, let them have shitty opinions and give it time and some understanding. We'd have less echo chambers, less social pressure of being afraid to say the wrong thing, less extremism. It will bring world peace, cure cancer and make everyone's dick grow. Okay, I'm getting carried away, but I'm sure you got what I was trying to say here. And that's the video, folks. Join my Discord, link in the description, because I do need friends. And there you can tell me how wrong I am about all of this. Or even better for the YouTube algorithm thing, you post that in the comments and give it a like and whatever. Here I wanted to focus on the perception of Hitler as being evil. And while I explained his worldview, I didn't do a lot to challenge it. But if this channel ain't DOA, I will be making a video specifically about the prejudice against Jews in the future. And in the meantime, just be kind to one another.